They cooked.
So let me get this straight. We're getting a brand new Superman movie in July, possibly the start of a minimum 8 to 10 year plan of interconnected DC movies and shows if everything goes smoothly. A movie where Superman actually looks and acts like he cares for humanity, embodying a grand sense of optimism and kindness, made by a writer and director who's forthcoming in embracing the wackier elements of comic books, who, not to mention, crafted one of the most beloved superhero movie trilogies, as indicated by audience reactions. WB is going full ham with the marketing, and the movie has decent visuals from what we've seen thus far. Jarvis, jerk it a little. Every day we're getting closer and closer to the release of James Gunn's Superman movie, and I think what the movie should accomplish in order to be successful is to not only incorporate elements that stay true to Superman's essence seen in films over the years, but also offer something unique that audiences can latch onto in such an oversaturated market of comic book movies. One thing that seems to make this new Superman iteration really stand out is the plethora of comics, stories, or previous eras of Superman Gunn seems to be pulling from to craft the story he wants to tell. He's discussed some of the inspirations that helped shape the Superman movie into what audiences will be able to witness soon enough. What kinds of stories and iterations are serving as frameworks for what Gunn is striving to achieve? One of the most apparent influences on this upcoming Superman movie is without a doubt the Richard Donner movies starring Christopher Reeve. In the eyes of a lot of people, this is seen as the standard for a Superman adaptation and a lot of people's quintessential Superman. You can hear hints of the John Williams theme in the trailers or other promotional material for the movie. That's not to say the entire score for Superman is going to be John Williams light, just some slight cues in there I'd imagine in some of the soundtrack, while still crafting something new and unique. Christopher Reeve's son, Will Reeve, will reportedly cameo in the movie as a TV reporter. Nice full circle moment, having the son of Chris Reeve show up for probably a few seconds or so. I'm sure no sane person would have any issue with this whatsoever, as it's just something that serves as a nice little homage to what's come before.
I think it's somewhere between a nice thing to do and a little bit of a cheap trick. So, I have mixed feelings on it.
Fuck you.
When viewing Superman 78 for the first time, one of the things that stood out to me the most was the chemistry between Lois Lane and Superman. Just seeing how well Christopher Reeve and Margaret Kidder were able to bounce off one another so seamlessly, whether it be Christopher Reeve playing Clark Kent or Superman.
Hi, Lois.
How'd you like your first day on the job, huh?
Gosh, on the whole, I'd say it's been swell.
There are very few people left in the world who feel comfortable saying that word. Swell.
Really? Oh, I thought it was kind of natural. Perhaps you could arrange for half my salary to be sent to this address on a weekly basis.
Don't tell me. He sends a check every week to his sweet gray-haired old mother.
Actually, she's silver-haired.
Do you have a girlfriend?
No, I don't, but if I did, Miss Lane, you'd be the first to know about it.
Every so often, we learn new tidbits about the Superman movie from the cast and crew. It seems like they have an understanding of what makes these characters compelling from a storytelling perspective and how their ideologies affect their motivations and how they address certain issues. Any good Superman adaptation needs to emphasize the Clark Kent and Lois Lane relationship. From what we know, Superman and Lois have been dating for a few months and are now questioning whether they should continue their relationship, diving deep into their ideologies to see if they truly align.
They've been together for a couple months, and they're doing that thing where they're like, was this a really fun fling, or is this something that could be forever? She's not so sure at this point. They're learning that they have obviously a common set of values. They both believe in relentless pursuit of truth and justice, but they go about it in totally opposite ways. They have completely different worldviews.
I think that's part of the key into making Superman emotionally connect with the general audiences, conveying how much Clark wants to see the goodness in people, while simultaneously feeling that grand sense of loneliness and belonging. He's still capable of experiencing very relatable and human emotions despite being this powerful alien. This is a Superman who can get hurt both physically and emotionally. It's a movie that hopefully celebrates kindness and love in an era where that mindset is often seen as outdated. Do not let any of these internet buffoons convince you that Superman is a boring character. It's 2025 and we as a society need to move past this rhetoric.
Are we going too far in an effort to have heart? He's talking to like the Superman robots or whatever, and he's just always kind and always nice, which is a little boring, by the way, for a hero.
Huh, that's stupid.
If you aren't familiar with the work of David Corenswet and Rachel Brosnahan, trust me when I say we're in very capable hands with the next Superman and Lois Lane. I'd recommend the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel series on Prime Video. Midge Maisel, the protagonist of the series played by Rachel Brosnahan, is kinda Lois Lane coded. You can see the parallels in the drives and motivations of both characters, where Lois strives to be the best reporter she can be, and Midge Maisel pursues her career as a stand-up comedian. David Corenswet as Superman was a casting practically years in the making, as Superman is a role he's talked about pursuing years prior to Gunn taking over DC, as well as him being a popular fan cast for several years.
The conscience, right?
Yeah.
The shadow.
Yeah.
Who looks like Superman.
I don't know what you're talking about.
As I stated earlier, there are a lot of comic inspirations going into this film, and the one that stands out the most would be Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely's All-Star Superman, which is pretty obvious given the cover of All-Star Superman being used to showcase the movie back when it was still titled Superman Legacy, and the cast was months away from being announced. It's not going to replicate the main plot elements, as I highly doubt the first movie in the DCU would center on Superman dying due to overexposure to solar radiation, but I think the tone, certain characters or assets from the movie, and the emphasis on Superman's optimistic nature will be the key similarities. It's the story Gunn and company are borrowing from the most. You can see where the movie pulls from All-Star Superman in terms of aesthetics based on what we've seen in trailers and other promotional material. The designs of the robots in the Fortress of Solitude, as seen in the sneak peek, closely resemble the designs of the robots from All-Star Superman. A lot of the Silver Age influence was reimagined in Grant Morrison's story, and you could see how unapologetically comic booky the movie looks from what we've seen thus far. From things like Metamorpho's base design to Superman battling a literal kaiju. The science fiction nature of Lex Luthor's machinations and how Lex utilizes science as his own method of sorcery is another aspect where All-Star Superman appears to serve as a major influence. Some of the ways Lex is able to utilize science to his advantage include having Superman die slowly from cell decay, creating giant monsters, and crafting a shape-shifting molecule that acts as a 24-hour superpower serum, giving him Superman's powers temporarily. Since Superman is doing his best to provide for humanity before he passes, we see him performing acts of goodwill around the world. So I'm sure we'll see moments of his empathy and kindness shining through on a large scale in the movie. Krypto's inclusion in the movie was more based on James Gunn's personal experience with his dog, realizing how that could be properly implemented into the story, but it also probably helped that Krypto had a small presence in All-Star Superman. I think Krypto is going to be a great addition to the film. Don't think he's going to be in it 24/7 or become super integral to the plot, but I think his presence helps in humanizing Superman and conveying his vulnerability. Despite being this super powerful alien with grand responsibilities of trying to do right by humanity, he will care for and deeply about this out-of-pocket ass dog. I've seen so many people say how relatable or accurate it was for dogs to act like this, as they aren't always going to be aware of your physical well-being. So coupled with the fact that he's going to have Kryptonian abilities, this boy about to be the first major menace of the DCU.
Krypto needs Superman. Superman doesn't need Krypto.
Okay.
Krypto's just been, it's sort of a foster situation. Superman is taking care of this dog. He loves dogs, as you know, most people do. But Krypto, as James has described, is the worst dog in the world with superpowers. So he's always destroying the Fortress of Solitude and hunting wildlife and just always getting into trouble, never listening. And although there's a great love and affection between Superman and dog, it's honestly more trouble than it's worth.
No rules, no boundaries. He doesn't flinch at torture, human trafficking, or genocide. He's not loyal to a flag or a country or any set of ideals. He trades blood for money. He's your new best friend.
About a year ago, Gunn was asked on Threads about other inspirations when making his version of Superman, aside from what Richard Donner had done with his Superman movies. Gunn shared around 10 photos of some of the various comics or animated projects that give a general overview of what to expect from his Superman. Some of the inspirations listed also coincide with the few stories included in the Superman box set, which is a 4 graphic novel box set including some of the most defining Superman comic stories, set to release shortly before the upcoming movie. Included in the photos were looks at the Fleischer Superman cartoons and the cover of Justice Society of America issue 10, drawn by Alex Ross, meant to visualize the Kingdom Come Superman. The official logo for the movie and the suit is basically what you'd get if the classic Superman logo and the Kingdom Come logo did the fusion dance to create the new design we know today, as well as the yellow outline from which I'm assuming was inspired by the Fleischer logo design. I think the narrative elements of Kingdom Come might give an idea of how some of the themes in the new movie will play out. In that story, Superman has to come out of retirement to demonstrate to the new age of heroes what it means to be an actual symbol for good, since heroism has morphed into an age filled with practically anti-heroes that would cause a lot of chaos and destruction in their path, as well as killing their enemies. A general synopsis of the movie is how kindness is seen as old-fashioned in modern day, so Superman has to set a precedent as to why it's so important to maintain that sense of optimism and empathy. Superman for All Seasons by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale's another big influence, being one of James Gunn's favorite Superman stories alongside All-Star Superman. Kurt Swan's Superman family, I guess, provides an idea of the Superman family getting explored more in the DCU, with Krypto already appearing as Superman and Supergirl getting her own theatrical release in 2026. The DCEU was mentioned to be one of the inspirations when mapping out the wider DCU, back when Gunn and Safran first took over DC Studios, so it's no surprise that Superman the Animated Series would influence the movie to some capacity. Other comics shared include looks from Action Comics 1035, a variant cover from Grant Morrison's Action Comics issue 4 from the New 52, a page from Superman issue 423, part of the story titled Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, and the back of Superman issue 1 from 1939, which is also used for the DC Studios intro. That's not to say there's going to be at least one narrative element pulled from each comic or animated show listed. It just gives a general idea of what to expect for the tone and the feel of the Superman movie, which is generally the idea DC Studios and James Gunn are going for when listing comics used for inspiration for their upcoming projects. Personally, the few books I'd recommend reading before watching Superman would be Kingdom Come, All-Star Superman, and Superman for All Seasons if you want the gist of who Superman is as a character and what he represents. In regards to the castings of Superman and Lois Lane, check out David Cornsweet in the show Hollywood on Netflix and Rachel Brosnahan in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel on Prime Video. You won't be disappointed. And here's to hoping for a good movie.